Who were the Athenians and Spartans, and how have they shaped our world? Although we often talk about ancient Greece as if it were one place, one culture, and one set of ideals, there were many different cultures, with Athens and Sparta representing dramatically different cultures, both of which have had major impacts on the development of the Western world. Sparta was a highly organized society devoted to equality. Second, Athens was an innovative society which developed many of the tools which make modern life possible. And third, together they provide the West with the foundations of their world. So first, political systems in Sparta are attributed to a possibly real, possibly mythical founding father, Lycurgus. However, First is about Sparta. Sparta conquered the land of the people that attacked Troy. They exploited the local population and created the single greatest military in the Greek-speaking world, partially because they were forced to focus on all their energy on maintaining control. This political system in Sparta is attributed to their possibly real, possibly mythical founding father, Lycurgus. However, quote, although Lycurgus may have been a wholly mythical personage, the Spartan constitution reflects the realities of Sparta's history and social system, unquote, said Crane Briston. It essentially became an oligarchy of the citizens. They had classes of people that lived there, with only Spartans being citizens. Reforms also led to extremely radical monetary policy. The idea was that if money was hard, if not impossible to use, less bad stuff would happen with it. To further stop outside influences, they stopped trading with other city-states. Although they had divided classes, laws were made to equalize within the classes. This can be seen with the common dining hall. The meals were frugal, but healthy and non-fattening. Boys were given just enough food to live, but little more. Their black broth gives the perfect example. It was made from pig's legs, blood, salt, and vinegar. Many thought that it tasted awful, but when they had nothing else, and often not a lot of it, it seemed much better to them. Almost everything was done together, from marriage to death, which provides us with some of our, and overall Sparta gave us some of our Western culture that we have today. Second is Athens. So Athens' first try at democracy turned to an oppressive oligarchy. Their next try, it lasted nearly 200 years. They had three principal governing bodies: the Assembly, the Council of 500, and courts. Archons were chosen by the Areopagus Council, which was formed by the Areopagus, which was a council of former magistrates and respected elders. And they looked after the daily business of Athens and made suggestions to the council and the assembly. It was left to the Polemarch and Strategoi to carry out the domestic determinations of the assembly, courts, and archons. The most important issues were decided in the assembly. Freedom of speech was also gained through time. Freedom of speech had a long history, despite attempts in Athens despite attempts to limit it. In the 6th century BC, Salamis had revolted against the Athenian control. Athenians forbade even proposing an idea to regain, but one person found a loophole in poetry. His poem made about the possibility of regaining it, convinced Athens. By the end of the 4th century BC, discussions of motions in the assembly were opened to any male citizen. Some claim that freedom of speech was even extended to foreigners and slaves. Early childhood was often very hard for Athenians. They had no word for family, with the closest being household, but they were well educated. Boys were often in school by age 7, and philosophy was popular among them too. One such philosopher from Athens was known as Heraclitus. He said, quote, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man," unquote. Although girls were not formally educated, they often learned from their mothers, who sometimes even taught them to read and to write. The Athenians also found theater to be very entertaining. Thirdly, what was their modern impact? Well, ancient Greek impacted the arts, sports, philosophy, and politics. Schools based on classical tradition, such as mine, would be unimaginable without them. The American democracy is founded, at least loosely, on Athens' system. The Olympics come from ancient Greece. Of course, theater also came somewhat from Athens. They had a major impact on architecture too. Sparta was also important to our modern politics. Their system appealed to the founding fathers. This was, quote, because of its focus on balancing power. Each office of the government had defined and separate roles, unquote, according to Paul Maney. The founding fathers hoped for a Christian Sparta, and that they thought Spartans were extraordinarily free and brave. Feminism also stems from Sparta. Because Spartans' husbands often died, the wives often ended up with a lot of land and money. So women were pretty much ran society in Sparta. Unfortunately, ancient Greek ideas have also been used to help positive views of slavery. Interest in Sparta were renewed as the question of slavery became more controversial. As the divide between the North and the South deepened, many wealthy Southerners felt their classical education was their mark of distinction. In Sparta, freemen were forbidden to perform the office of slaves, lest he lose the spirit of independence. All of this led to positive versus negative views overall of slavery in America. The Spartans also had long-term indirect influence. Many philosophers thought well of certain aspects of the Spartan life. They especially impacted school systems. Spartan ideologies have also been used by many nations. So this proves, along with Sparta's highly organized society and Athens' innovative one, that although we often talk about ancient Greece as if it were one, they had many different ideas and ideals, with Athens and Sparta representing dramatically different cultures, but they have both dramatically have had major impacts on the development of the Western world. Thank you.